Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. The postman has just delivered my copy of the October issue of White Dwarf magazine. It contains some new rules for Blackstone Fortress, so obviously, being someone who likes to talk about Blackstone Fortress whenever the opportunity arises, here we are taking a look at that new content. Now this video, I am focusing on the content that is relating to Blackstone Fortress. However, I do just briefly want to mention that this issue of White Dwarf is particularly good, I think, for people who like Games Workshop games and their boxed games in particular, because it has quite a lot of different stuff in there, different rules for different products that they produce. So I'm very quickly going to show you all of the different stuff that's in there, and then we will get to the Blackstone Fortress stuff. So I haven't actually had a chance to read all of this stuff in detail. I've only looked at the Blackstone Fortress stuff. But for your AOS players, for your Age of Sigmar players, there's new stuff on the Host of Silesk battle trait, which is for a Host of Slaanesh. So we've got new War Scroll battalions and that sort of thing. Like I say, I haven't looked at that in any great detail, but they are there. We have, for the 40k players, we have Sisters of Silence army lists. We have data sheets for Prosecutors, Vigilators, Witch Seekers, and the Null Maiden Rhino. Quite a lot of stuff there. Next up, I think this is going to be a big one. This is for Kill Team, and it is Vanguard Reinforcements. It is rules for using all of your Shadow Spear contents in Kill Team. So it's Adeptus Astartes, obviously, and we have rules for Incursors, Eliminators, Infiltrators, Reavers, Intercessors, and a Lieutenant or Lieutenant in Phobos armor. So again, good looking stuff, quite a lot of content there for your Kill Team players. And that is not all. Right at the end of the magazine, we actually have some content for Aeronautica Imperialis, which is a game that I thought Games Workshop had immediately forgotten about because they didn't seem to have mentioned it since it launched. But there is actually a battle report, and then there is a new campaign. It looks like the campaign requires the Rinnsworld campaign book, and a larger map than the one you would get in the starter set. The way it is laid out, it looks like it's obviously Imperials versus Orcs. The Imperial forces don't get replenished between battles, and it is a linked series of 5 battles, so over time the Imperials are going to get beaten down, their numbers are going to get reduced, whereas Orcs actually have the opportunity to replenish their units between fights. The first 4 missions in the campaign are lifted from the Rinnsworld book, and then they seem to have some optional special rules. I haven't seen the Rinnsworld book or the Rinnsworld campaign, so I don't know exactly how that all relates together, but that's what it appears to be here. And then there is a new 5th mission called Last Flight, which terminates the campaign. And also, there are rules for new special named aircraft and special ace pilots. You're not allowed to use other named craft or ace pilots in this campaign because it is supposed to be based on a real historical event, real from the universe of 40k. So you have to use the named craft and named aces that were actually involved in that particular conflict. So that's pretty interesting as well, and like I say, it's nice to see some content for Aeronautica Imperialis. But what I'm interested in, or what I am here for, is the Blackstone Fortress content. So in last month's issue of White Dwarf magazine, Games Workshop introduced rules for 2 new retinue characters. They were Ogrin brothers, and this month they're introducing, quite fittingly for Orktober, rules for an Ork Retinue character. It's actually a Flash Git's freebooter, Scarburn Zapdaka by name, and it's following very much a similar path to, if you saw last month's issue, you will know that retinue characters are introduced by completing a small mission that actually unlocks their availability. If you don't know what retinue characters are, they were actually introduced in the Escalation expansion first, There was one retinue character there, and then like I say, in White Dwarf last month there were some Ogrins, and now we have this Ork freebooter as well. Retinue characters are support characters. They don't have activation dice. They activate immediately after the leader in each combat round, and there's very specific restrictions on them. They have a set of actions that they are allowed to use, and they, rather than having activation dice which are reduced as they take wounds, they always have a set number of activations that they can take, and sometimes that number of activations will change when they inspire. They're not allowed to have equipment, they're not allowed to use destiny dice, they're not allowed to reveal discovery tokens or have discovery cards. They're never allowed rewards for anything. If they achieve a quest objective that would actually grant them a card of some kind, they aren't allowed to have that card. It goes to the leader instead. And like I say, they don't have an initiative card. They will always activate immediately after the leader. So those rules are actually reiterated here. And then there are rules for how to actually discover this Flash Git Ork, and it's done through a side quest. Side quests were also introduced in last month's White Dwarf. They are one-shots that you can play at any time. You don't have to be between missions, so you could be playing your main quest line from the base game and suddenly go, well actually let's just go and see if we can get this Ork Retinue character, and you can pause your main game, go and do this side quest and then come back. While the side quest is going, you can't draw discovery cards, but there's no legacy step or trading step. You don't get to search discovery tokens. You're not allowed to remove discovery tokens from the board for any reason. Everything sort of goes into a stasis whilst you complete this side quest. And then once the side quest is done, you go back to your main quest line and everything reactivates again and picks up from where it left off. It's almost an out of time, out of sequence thing. What I would suggest doing is, if you're playing a main quest with 4 characters that you like to use, do a side quest with a set of different characters. Use the 4 that, if you've only got the base game, use the 4 that you're not using. If you've got escalation as well, you've obviously got more options. But that's what I would do. I would play the main campaign and stick with your characters there and sort of go, meanwhile, somewhere else in the Blackstone Fortress, and then use a different set of characters. I think that'd be a fun narrative way to actually incorporate these side quests in a way that makes more sense than suddenly going, well, the building is going to blow up in a minute, but hold on, let's go on a side quest and then we'll come back and deal with this later. But that's just me. So we then have some rules on how to set up the expedition to recruit Scarburn Zapdacker, and then we have his card. Unfortunately, they're not including the cards as cover products. It would be nice if they did, but I understand why they don't. It's just printed in the magazine for you to reproduce or cut out whatever. So this is his regular side and this is his inspired side. We can see he has move 2. He is defense on a D8, agility on a D6, and vitality on a D8. And he is huge, which means other explorers cannot share the hex with him. He stands all by himself. And he only has one weapon action. It is the Snaz Gun. And it says it has the special ability. You can see it's D8 at range 1, D12 at range 2 to 3, and then D8 at range 4 plus again. So it's quite powerful. But it also has this unbridled firepower rule. And this is interesting because something I was going to talk about in another video is how Games Workshop have introduced retinue characters, which are something that make things easier for the heroes, because you get an extra character who may be doing 3 or 4 extra actions per turn. That's 3 or 4 extra weapon actions per turn. And it's not even like injuring them will reduce the number of weapon actions they have. It's like the best extra resource card you can have. It's a 5th body on the board and an extra set of actions to help you get things done. And there's nothing really to offset that. So it's like Games Workshop had a cool idea, you know, retinue characters, mercenaries, mercs, people you can have to assist you, you pay to hire, and then didn't incorporate something to offset those new benefits, which is something that good design should do. Every benefit you get, there should be a cost somewhere along the line. Scarburn Zapdacker actually has a kind of cost associated with him because he's bonkers. He's very powerful, but he also doesn't give a monkeys. His unbridled firepower rule is when this retinue character makes this weapon action, draw line of sight to the target, then make an attack roll against each explorer and hostile in each hex through which the line of sight was drawn. So if he's targeting an enemy and there's an explorer between him and the enemy, he shoots the explorer too. That gets worse because down here where it says wah, obviously a special rule for an orc would be called wah, wouldn't it? It says he gets 3 actions a turn. He can use the snaz gun, he can move, or he can recuperate. Those are the only actions available to him. And it says if there are hostiles visible to him, he must take the snaz gun weapon action. So if you have foolishly stood your explorers in positions where they are between the orc and the target, he's going to mow down everybody. So you have to really think carefully about making sure that you are not standing in his line of fire. Furthermore, he has the ability Daka Daka Daka, and it says after Scarburn Zap Daka's activation is over, roll the Blackstone dice. If he made any snazgun weapon actions, on a 1, apply 1 grievous wound to Scarburn Zap Daka, on a 20, take the snazgun weapon action again. He can really keep going, and he can actually end up doing more damage to your heroes than anyone else. But of course, as long as you think about what you're doing, as long as you're careful and you remember that he's always going to activate immediately after the leader, you can keep out of his lines of fire, and really he's super powerful. I'm not necessarily sure that the fact he might kill you is really offsetting his strength, because I think you're only going to end up getting badly hurt if you haven't thought things through properly. But time will tell when you actually use him in a mission. You'll see how badly he beats you up. Anyway, his secret agenda is that if he kills 2 hostiles with a single weapon action, and taking an explorer out of action with a weapon action counts, then he becomes inspired. And once he has inspired, he becomes even more deadly. His defense and agility stay the same. His vitality goes up. His snazgun weapon becomes much more powerful, like crazy more powerful. And his Daka 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 ability changes. It changes so that on the roll of a 1 to 3, he takes a grievous wound, and on an 18 to 20, he takes the snazgun weapon action again. So he becomes super more killy, but also more likely to hurt himself, more likely potentially to hurt you. So it's nice that he is stupidly powerful. I mean, it's if he's going to be taking 3 actions and he's attacking everyone between a target and him, and obviously if there's multiple targets, you can pick which target. So you want to pick the one that's most likely going to avoid hitting you and most likely to hit as many enemies as possible. But yeah, he's going to cause massive amounts of damage. 3 attacks. Potential of 3 attacks per round. Just very, very powerful. I think he's going to mow down a lot of people. But may take a little bit of time just to get into the habit of stepping to the left when he fires up the gun. But anyway, interesting, quite fun. I'm not 100% convinced on the idea of employing an orc's services, but you know, it's something that's sort of happened with the Warhammer Quest product line since Silver Tower, is that sometimes you get these odd matchups of different races coming together, putting their differences aside, no matter how great those differences may be. So that's how he operates once you've actually got access to him. But to get access to him, you have to first complete a mission. There's this side quest that I was talking about. And here is that mission. It's called Zap Daka's Rampage. And there's a weird disparity between the fluff for this mission and what you have to actually do to win. So it says in the fluff at the top, it says, the freebooter Scarburn Zap Daka has gone on a greed-fueled killing spree. Only an explorer with wealth to spare can hope to catch this loot-obsessed maniac's attention long enough to strike a deal. So that sounds to me like you have to pay him off in some way. We have a setup where the heroes arrive down here, and Zapdaka is up here. And the enemies, it should be noted, the hostile groups do make use of cultists and cultist firebrands from the Escalation expansion. You can proxy in or replace or whatever, but as it's written, it's a mission that requires the Escalation expansion. So, the way this mission actually works is Zapdaka will activate after the leader in each round, and he has a special set of actions he will do. He is basically looting. He is running around the board trying to get the discovery tokens. If he's at a discovery token, he will loot it. He will remove that discovery marker from the board and place it next to his character card. And that's what he's doing. He'll kill things that are in his way. If he can loot, he will. If he can't loot, he will run, and if he can't run, he will kill stuff. So his priority is getting to the loot. The game will end if all the explorers are taken out of action, if there are no discovery markers on the battlefield, or if Zapdaka is out of action. Once one of those things has happened, you have to determine whether you've actually won or not. You will lose if all of the explorers are out of action, or if Zapdaka has 3 or more discovery markers. As long as that's not the case, you win, and from that point on, you can actually use Zapdaka as a retinue character. But yeah, there's a disparity here, because basically, the rules for side quests are that you're not allowed to actually remove discovery tokens yourself. So the discovery tokens will not be removed by heroes, which means the only way those discovery tokens are being removed is when Zapdaka gets to them. Zapdaka will win and you will lose if he gets 3 or more discovery tokens. So you have to stop him getting the discovery tokens, but you can't take the discovery tokens. So really the only way you can win is to take him down, beat him up, knock him out. That works thematically. If you can beat up an orc, you will gain a certain measure of respect from an orc. He likes a good scrap, and he likes to know that he's been confronted by a true challenge, someone who is worthy of giving him a good kicking. But the fluff says that he's loot obsessed and he wants someone can grab his attention if they've got enough loot, which suggests you're supposed to be running around and grabbing the discovery tokens before he does. But that's not in the rules. There's no rule for you taking the discovery tokens. The only conceivable way to win is to beat up Zapdaka, knock him out before he gets to the discovery tokens. Which is fine, and I guess that's what the intention is. It's just the writing of the fluff doesn't marry very well. The other thing is there's actually a repeat of a minor issue that was actually in the side quest for the Ogrins from last month, in that the rules do say that you cannot acquire discovery cards for any reason while you're on a side quest, yet when you roll a 20 on the side quest table, you get a lucky find which says you get to draw a discovery card. So there is an actual conflict in the rules there, where on one hand it's saying you can never have discovery cards while you're on a side quest, and then there's quite clearly a result in the side quest table that will let you have a discovery card. I'm guessing that the lucky find overrules that particular rule, but it's not very good that it's there, and it's not very good that it's happened 2 issues in a row that same disparity in the rules is there. But anyway, so that's it. Beat up Zapdaka, stop him getting the discovery tokens, stay alive, and then you will gain access to him as a retinue character. And like I say, retinue characters don't cost anything, you just pick one at the start of an expedition. And that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in another video, because like I say, I do think Games Workshop have introduced a cool concept with the retinue characters. Well, they haven't introduced it specifically for Blackstone Fortress, it's an iteration of rules that were in Shadows over Hammerhall, when they introduced mercenaries in a White Dwarf expansion for that. But they haven't necessarily integrated it in such a way where there's a real cost. Zapdaka is the closest that they have come with the ability to actually lose explorers to his wild gunfire. But anyway, that's it really. The only other thing to mention is that Zapdaka, as a Flash Git character, if you want to play him based on, if we go back, if you want the miniature that matches the card, that's a Flash Gits model. It comes from a set of Flash Gits, which I believe retails for £32.50 in the UK for a set of 5. If you don't want to do that, it's proxy time. I happen to have in my possession this orky fella here. He was from the Shadow War Armageddon box set. He's just a regular orc with a big gun, and I think that is perfectly suitable as a proxy in this particular circumstance and will save me £32.50. But there we go. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. It's a cool new addition. It's another retinue character. We now have 2 Ogrins, an Orc, and X101, is that his name? From the Escalation expansion. So we're getting a good choice of retinue characters now, and it's nice to have new quests for each one. It's nice to have those opportunities to go, oh, let's go off and fight this cool little one-off scenario-driven thing. It's something that I have said a lot about Blackstone Fortress, is I would like more combats that are scenario-driven, that have a narrative within themselves, that have fun things to do, like shutting off machinery or closing vents, getting to access hatches, doing different things, really. And these scenarios for acquiring the retinue characters do that. So that's a good thing. Thank you very much for watching, as always. If you have any comments or queries, do please leave them below and I'll do my best to answer. Also, if you want to know anything about the other stuff that I briefly glossed over, the rules for the other games, like I said, this was a Blackstone Fortress video, so I didn't want to spend too much time looking at those. So if there's anything in particular you would like to know, feel free to ask and I will do my best. Other than that, if you have liked this video, please consider pressing the like button, and if you do not already subscribe, please consider doing that as well, because it is a massive help to the channel and it makes me very happy. But that's it for now. Thank you very much, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye.